My nursing bag drops to the floor with a heavy thud. I freeze at the foot of the basement steps, my mind struggling to register what I'm seeing. The twins' beds, dressers, and toy chests are crammed together in a sad little corner near the water heater. Their beloved stuffed animals, Milo's fraying teddy bear and Tessa's purple unicorn, sit forlornly atop the hastily made beds. Cobwebs trail along the ceiling edges, casting shadows over the scene. Mom? Dad? My voice echoes off the cold concrete walls. The washing machine drones steadily, a cruel reminder that this damp space was never intended for children. The air reeks faintly of detergent mixed with the damp smell that no dehumidifier has ever fully erased. My mother appears at the top of the stairs, bouncing my sister's baby, Caleb, on her hip. Her face lights up for a moment at the sight of her grandson, but dims quickly when she notices me. "Oh, Amelia, you're home early." She avoids my eyes. "What is this?" I gesture at the cluster of my children's belongings. "Why are Tessa and Milo's things down here?" Dad steps out behind her, arms folded firmly across his chest. "We had to make some adjustments. Sophia needs a proper office space to work from home, and Caleb deserves a real nursery." A real nursery? The words slice my throat on their way out. As opposed to what? Fake one? The twins already had real bedrooms upstairs. Mom exhales sharply, the same sound I've heard my whole life whenever I disappointed her. "Amelia, don't be dramatic. Sophia's circumstances are different. She needs stability and Caleb's at a critical developmental stage. And my kids aren't?" My hands tremble. "The twins should be grateful they even have a roof over their heads," Mom replies, jostling Caleb as he whimpers. "Plenty of children go without." The memory of moving back home 3 months ago presses against my chest, the ink on my divorce papers barely dry, the twins sitting quietly in the back seat while I promised them Grandma and Grandpa's house was just for a while. I swallowed my pride then, agreed to cover expenses even though this was supposedly my childhood refuge, my family's safety net. Then Sophia arrived with newborn Caleb, her marriage collapsing just as mine had. But unlike me, she was embraced, coddled, celebrated. Caleb was treated like royalty. Meanwhile, the twins were scolded for laughing too loud, for playing when Caleb napped, for existing in ways that weren't convenient. "You had no right to move their things without asking me," I say, my voice steadier than I expect. "They're my children." "Amelia," Dad says in that commanding tone I know too well, "your sister's career and Caleb's development are priorities right now. The basement is more than adequate." Adequate? I climb 2 steps, glaring almost level with him. "This space is damp. Milo has asthma." "You're overreacting," Dad insists. "Sophia needed the room more," Mom adds, her voice final. "She's building a future for Caleb." And there it is, the truth I've always felt but tried to deny. My children will always matter less. I pull my phone from my pocket, my hands now perfectly still. Last week, my colleague Brenda had mentioned her mother-in-law's vacant rental cottage. Emergency housing only, after overhearing me vent about living under the same roof as my sister and her baby. "What are you doing?" Mom frowns as she watches me type. "Making other arrangements." The text is simple. "Is that emergency housing still available?" "Don't be ridiculous," Dad scoffs. "On a nurse's salary? You need us." Mom shifts Caleb on her hip. "Sophia is family too, Amelia. You can't expect us to treat her differently just because you happened to move in first." "This isn't about who was here first," I reply, picking up Tessa's clarinet case shoved carelessly by a pipe. "This is about respect. My children deserve better than a basement." Sophia appears at the top of the stairs, guilt and stubbornness written across her face. "The twins will adjust. Kids are resilient." Funny how that only applies to my children, I shoot back, brushing dust off the clarinet case. "You're blowing this out of proportion," Mom says with a dismissive wave. "The basement is perfectly fine. We're doing you a favor letting you stay here." A favor. The word tastes sour. As though I haven't been stocking the fridge, paying the utilities, taking double night shifts so I can watch Caleb during the day while Sophia focuses on her mental health. My phone buzzes. Brenda's response flashes across the screen. "Available immediately. Call me." Standing in that damp basement, surrounded by the remnants of my children's displaced lives, I finally see what I've been denying all along. My parents never valued Milo and Tessa the way they do Caleb. And by staying, I'm teaching my children to accept scraps, to believe they deserve less. I'll be upstairs when the twins get home from school, I say, voice calm, resolved. We'll need to talk about this. But as I climb the stairs, past the silence of my parents and Sophia's unblinking stare, I already know what comes next. My children deserve sunlight, warmth, dignity. And I'm the only one who can make sure they get it. That night, I lie awake listening to the ceiling creak with footsteps above, each sound a reminder that my children are sleeping in the basement. Milo's cough had only just eased, his little body curled around his teddy. Tessa had tried to act unbothered, arranging her unicorns along the cement ledge, but I saw the tears she wiped when she thought I wasn't looking. After settling them in, I crept upstairs for water, my nerves taut. The house was still, save for the refrigerator's hum and the glow from Sophia's laptop left open on the counter. I moved to shut it, but a notification blinked across the screen. Her name. Her messages. I shouldn't look. But something in me, a nurse's instinct, a mother's instinct, tells me to check. The first message stops my breath. Mom said we can just put them in the basement, Sophia had typed 3 weeks ago. Amelia works so much she'll barely notice, and the twins are used to making do. My hand flies to my mouth. Scrolling reveals weeks of back and forth with her friend. Laughing emojis. Your sister is such a doormat. The screen blurs as tears well, but I force them back. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment choice. It was planned. Discussed. Calculated. While I cooked their meals, bought their groceries, and watched Caleb on my rare days off. I hear Caleb's cries drifting from upstairs, followed by my mother's soft, soothing voice, and then the slow creak of footsteps on the stairs. I move quickly, stepping away from my laptop, turning my back toward the kitchen entrance as I fill a glass of water with shaky hands. Oh, you're still awake. Sophia's voice carries easily across the room, calm, casual, entirely free of guilt, as though nothing had happened. Mom's got Caleb. He's teething. I know, I answer, my own voice sounding foreign in my ears. I've been giving him teething tablets whenever it's my shift with him. Later, when the twins are finally asleep in their makeshift beds in the basement, I find myself across from my parents and my sister at the kitchen table. The whole house is hushed, except for the faint sound of Sophia rocking Caleb against her shoulder. They sit together, a unified wall. I remain standing, arms crossed, unable to pretend this is some warm scene of family harmony. The basement setup is only temporary, Dad says, avoiding my eyes, just until we figure out a permanent solution. What exactly does that mean? I ask, forcing my voice to stay even. Mom adjusts the blanket around Caleb. Well, since Sophia plans to stay as long as she needs, we have to think about the long-term needs of everyone. Stay indefinitely? The word lands heavily between us. My therapist says stability is crucial for me right now, Sophia adds, reaching for the steaming mug of tea Mom made for her. And Caleb needs consistency more than anything. And what about my children's stability? The sharpness in my tone surprises even me. Dad's shoulders tighten. Don't be dramatic, Amelia. At least they have a roof over their heads. A roof I help pay for, I shoot back. My contributions cover more than a third of the bills every month. A look passes silently between my parents and my skin prickles. About those contributions, Mom begins, her voice taking on that familiar coaxing tone I've heard all my life. We've been thinking it would make sense to pool all the resources together. Sophia needs help with Caleb's expenses, and since you're already stable in your career. The realization slams into me. You've been giving my money to Sophia? Not all of it, Dad answers quickly. Just enough to help her get back on her feet. I press both palms against the table to steady myself. While my children sleep in a damp basement? If you're so unhappy with the arrangement, Dad waves a hand dismissively, maybe you could pitch a tent in the yard. The twins would even get windows that way. The cruel joke drops heavy into the air. No one laughs. Even Sophia shifts uncomfortably, but she still doesn't defend me. Over the next several days, the consequences of our arrangement become brutally clear. Tessa's clarinet practice, once celebrated in this house, now clashes with Caleb's naps. She's forbidden to play inside at all. Maybe next year you can try a quieter instrument, Mom suggests, as if her passion for music were nothing more than a childish phase. Milo, my son who usually fills every room with words, grows quieter by the day. At dinner he only speaks when spoken to, eyes glued to his plate. His usual enthusiastic stories about science class vanish into silence. He's just adjusting, Dad says when I raise my concern. Kids are resilient. That night, after ensuring the twins are asleep, I find Milo's inhaler usage log. He's been using it twice as often since moving downstairs. The dampness isn't just uncomfortable, it's worsening his health. I retreat to my corner of the basement, little more than a mattress tucked behind a bookshelf, and pull out my phone. The overtime hours have added up. Between my savings and next week's paycheck, I finally have enough for first and last month's rent on the apartment Brenda mentioned. I stare at the glowing balance, torn between confronting my family one last time or leaving quietly. Would demanding respect change anything, or would silence speak louder? The pipes above knock and rattle, their clamor sounding like an opinion of their own. A week later, just after finishing my third double shift in a row, the doorbell rings. My body aches for rest, but there's no time. Aunt Cynthia, Uncle Pete, and 3 cousins pour into the living room, crowding around Caleb and his bouncer. There she is, Mom calls with exaggerated brightness. We were just about to start the tour. Sophia beams, bouncing Caleb proudly. I can't wait to show off his nursery. It turned out absolutely perfect. My stomach twist. His nursery. The room that used to belong to my twins. The parade of relatives heads upstairs, voices full of delight over the fresh paint, custom shelves Dad built, and the cozy window seat cushions Mom sewed. Never mind that Tessa had begged for bookshelves for years. Never mind Milo's pleas for a reading nook since he first learned to read. This is exactly what a growing boy needs, Aunt Cynthia declares, stroking the plush crib mattress. Uncle Pete nods toward me. Your twins must be very generous, letting their cousin have such a nice setup. My mouth tastes metallic. They didn't exactly have a choice. An uneasy silence follows until Mom breaks in. We'll be converting the basement into a proper bedroom soon, of course. But first, Dad adds casually, we're redoing the kitchen. Sophia needs a proper workspace for Caleb's organic meals. Later that evening, as relatives eat in the dining room, I slip back downstairs. Milo's cough echoes against the concrete walls, harsh, hollow, and far too familiar. Mom. He sits up, clutching his inhaler. Is dinner ready? Almost, buddy. I sit on the edge of his bed, rubbing his back through another fit. How's the breathing today? He shrugs. Same. Dr. Phillips's warning echoes in my memory. Environmental factors. We both knew what he meant. Will Hannah be at school tomorrow? I ask, trying to lift his spirits. Doesn't matter. He lowers his gaze to his inhaler. I don't invite friends over anymore. Why not, honey? Tessa doesn't either, he mutters. It's embarrassing. Nobody else lives in their grandparents' basement. The truth hits me like a physical blow. Just days ago, I'd overheard Tessa politely decline a sleepover invite, blaming it on too much homework. She hasn't touched her clarinet since Dad scolded her about disturbing Caleb's naps. You should come upstairs for dinner, I tell Milo, brushing his hair back. He shakes his head. Grandma said my coughing upsets Caleb during meals. I'll eat down here. Something inside me doesn't snap, but it splinters. A fracture deep enough that I know there's no repairing this. I kiss his forehead, then climb the basement stairs. Halfway up, I pause when I hear my name whispered above. Amelia's working herself to the bone, Aunt Cynthia remarks from the dining room, her voice carrying above the clatter of silverware. 16-hour shifts aren't sustainable. She needs the money, Mom replies flatly. Divorced nurses don't exactly land golden parachutes. I've been saying nothing, just pouring every ounce of strength into overtime, stacking away every dollar in my savings. 3 more weeks at this punishing pace and I'll finally have enough for first and last month's rent, plus a security deposit, for anything anywhere so long as it has windows. The next morning, my eyes sting with exhaustion as I change 4 bags at the hospital. Brenda, the charge nurse, pauses at my side. Your hands are trembling, she says gently. Just tired, I murmur. She glances around, then discreetly slips a folded paper into my pocket. That 3-bedroom on Maple Street? The owner's a friend of my husband. It'll be available next month, but he hasn't listed it yet. Her eyes linger on mine. Your kids deserve windows, Amelia, she whispers during shift change. The The slip of paper burns in my pocket for the rest of my shift. Sunday dinner comes with more relatives. Aunt Linda, Dad's blunt older sister, surveys the dining room as dishes are passed. "Don't the twins mind living in the basement?" she asks suddenly. Forks freeze midair. Silence cloaks the room. Sophia keeps her eyes glued to her plate. Mom's smile turns brittle. "What Linda means," Dad begins carefully, "is that they won't be down there for long." "They won't," I cut in, my voice calm in a way that startles even me. "Because we're moving out next week." Utensils clatter onto plates. Mom knocks over her water glass, the liquid rushing across the tablecloth. "What do you mean moving out?" Sophia demands while Dad's expression darkens like a thundercloud. "I've signed a lease. 3 bedrooms in the twins' school district." The words flow out of me, light and unshakable. "You can't just decide something like this," Mom sputters. "I can actually." I turn toward Aunt Linda. "And to answer your question, yes, they mind. Milo's asthma has worsened because of the damp. Tessa's too embarrassed to invite a single friend over. They deserve better." "This is about money, isn't it?" Dad growls. "We can figure something out." "This isn't about money." I lay my napkin down beside my plate. "It's about respect." Later that night, desperation drives me to call Brenda. He doesn't hesitate. "Of course you can stay with us until the place is ready. The guest room is small, but the pull-out couch is comfortable enough for the kids." "I can't ask." "You're not asking. I'm offering," she interrupts firmly. Then softer, "What your parents are doing isn't right, Amelia." The contrast sears me. Brenda, who has known me 3 years, extending genuine support, while my own family only piles criticism and demands. "Thank you," I whisper, my voice steady, stronger than it ever is when I speak to my parents. And just like that, the shift happens. For the first time in months, I move forward without begging anyone's approval. I call the landlord directly. I complete the rental application. I schedule utilities. Each action feels like peeling off invisible chains I didn't realize I still wore. The following Saturday, my family assembles in the living room, fussing over plans for Caleb's half-birthday, 6 months old, and already the center of another celebration. They argue over cupcake decorations and Instagram filters. While they gush, I slip quietly into the basement and begin packing. Suitcases open wide as I fold in essentials. Tessa's clarinet. Milo's stack of favorite books. The lease papers sit safe in my purse. The first week with Brenda is already arranged. I zip the last suitcase and glance up. The twins stand in the doorway watching me. Their eyes are wide, full of confusion, yet behind it something fragile and bright. "Hope. Pack your backpacks," I whisper. "Only what you really need for the next few days." Tessa's eyes widen further. Milo grips his inhaler with less tension. "Are we really leaving?" Tessa asks, her voice no louder than a breath. I nod, smiling for the first time in months. "Yes. Tonight." And in that moment my children straighten. As if somehow they're already breathing a different air. The next morning, dawn streaks pale gold through Brenda's guestroom curtains. I check my watch, 6:15. Perfect. My parents won't be leaving for Caleb's pediatrician appointment until 8. We need the head start. "Mom." Tessa appears in the doorway, dressed in her purple sweater. Milo stands behind her, inhaler in hand, nervous but ready. "Ready?" I ask softly. They nod, determination etched in their young faces. For 3 days we've been preparing, ever since I signed that lease. Brenda's minivan waits in the driveway, engine humming as we load boxes. "Remember," I remind them, "just essentials today. We'll come back for the rest when they're gone." 30 minutes later we pull into my parents' driveway. The house looms, silent, still asleep. We move with precision as if this were a drill I'd rehearsed at work. "Take only what matters most," I whisper as the twins hurry down the basement steps. I watch them choose carefully. Milo's science fair medals, Tessa's music books, the matching quilts my grandmother sewed years ago. With every object they lift from that damp space, their movements grow more certain. More free. "Stand taller," I want to whisper to them. But I don't need to. The change is already unfolding before my eyes. Their spines lengthen, their chins lift, and with every step they take carrying their treasures toward the minivan, they shed the weight of the basement. By 7:30, Brenda's van is stacked neatly with our essentials. On the kitchen counter, I leave my house key beside a note I've rewritten a dozen times until it boiled down to the only truth that mattered. We found our own place. The twins deserve windows. Later that morning, as we unpack boxes in the new apartment, my phone begins buzzing insistently. Mom, Dad, Mom again, Sophia. I silence each call until Tessa tugs at my sleeve. Mom, aren't you going to answer? I set down the box of toiletries. Not yet, sweetheart. We need to get settled first. The voicemails collect in a steady stream. I finally listen while the twins carefully arrange books on the shelves Brenda scored at a yard sale. Amelia, this is completely inappropriate. My mother's voice bristles with anger. You're traumatizing your sister by leaving like this. Caleb can sense the tension. Call us back immediately. Then Dad's voice, firm, commanding as always. I cannot believe you'd do this to family. And Sophia, her words trembling with outrage. I trusted you, Amelia. I can't believe you'd betray me like this. Each message hardens me further like steel plunged into fire. Their concern isn't for Milo or Tessa. It's for the disruption to their controlled household, for the loss of their built-in nurse and babysitter. I block the numbers just for now. We need space. We need quiet. We need to breathe without their shadow darkening every corner. That night, the twins fall asleep in their own bedrooms. Real bedrooms, with windows that open to the night air. My phone lights up again, this time with a message from my supervisor. Charge nurse position still open. Interested in talking tomorrow? I stare at the screen, my fingers hovering. The role would mean higher pay but heavier responsibility too. Could I rebuild my career while also rebuilding my children's stability? The following week blurs into a whirlwind. Brenda shows up on Saturday with reinforcements. Joanne from pediatrics and Marcus from the ER, their cars packed with donations. A second-hand TV, a worn but comfortable couch, curtains Joanne's daughter outgrew that happened to match Tessa's bedspread. We raided the hospital's donation closet. Marcus grins, hauling in a desk for Milo's room. Sometimes families leave perfectly good stuff behind. By Sunday night, the apartment looks transformed. Tessa and Milo have their own spaces, painted with personality. The living room holds a small dining table, a cozy sofa, a bookshelf filling with our treasures. Listen, I say to Brenda as we collapse on the couch after everyone leaves. To what? She asks. To this. I smile as the sound drifts down the hall. Tessa practicing her clarinet, sweet notes filling the air, a sound I hadn't heard in months. In the kitchen, Milo lines up his rock collection on the windowsill, humming quietly. It strikes me all at once, his cough has vanished. More than a week out of the damp basement, and he hasn't reached for his inhaler a single time. My phone buzzes again, this time with a text from Aunt Linda. Your mother told everyone you had a breakdown and kidnapped the kids. Just wanted you to know what's being said. How are you really? I type back simply, we're fine. The twins each have their own bedroom now. The windows. Soon after, replies flood in from cousins and distant relatives. Offers of help, encouragement, words of support that drown out the lies. 2 weeks later, a text arrives from Dad. We need to talk. May I visit? I set the phone aside and watch Tessa and Milo move freely through our apartment. Laughter spilling, shoulders lifted, their voices no longer hushed. For the first time in months, they look like themselves again. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. In sunlight, not shadows. 3 days later, the doorbell rings. My chest tightens, but I straighten my shoulders before opening the door. There they are, Mom, Dad, and Sophia, standing on the mat, their expressions carefully composed. Mom balances Caleb against her shoulder, while Dad grips a large dinosaur-themed gift bag, Milo's favorite. You didn't need to bring gifts, I say, stepping aside. We thought the twins might like something from home, Mom replies, her smile stiff. This is their home now, I answer evenly. Sophia follows behind, her confident stride replaced by tentative steps. Her gaze flits around the modest living room, taking in the second-hand furniture and the children's artwork taped proudly to the walls. It's cozy, she offers, the politeness in her voice unfamiliar. Dad sets down the bag, clears his throat. We've been talking, Amelia. Maybe we were hasty in our arrangements. Hasty? I echo, bitterness sharp on my tongue. The twins could have one of the upstairs bedrooms, Mom suggests, rocking Caleb when he fusses. We could shift things around. Share a room, you mean? I clarify. Instead of the basement? Dad shifts his weight. It would be better than this situation. I gesture around the sunlit apartment. This situation, where my children each have their own space. With windows. You're punishing the family, Sophia blurts, her composure cracking. The twins miss their cousins. Caleb needs his aunt. I hold her gaze. My children aren't being punished here. And they're not being used to punish anyone else. At the sound of voices, Tessa and Milo appear in the hall. Tessa slips her hand into mine. Milo hovers, cautious. Would you like to show them your rooms? I ask gently. Before anyone can answer, I lead the way down the short hallway. I've accepted the charge nurse position at Memorial, I add over my shoulder. Better hours. Better pay. I open Tessa's door first, revealing her space transformed into something all her own. Her smile widens, brighter than I've seen in months. Since this morning, the lavender-painted bookshelf we built together now glows warmly against Tessa's wall, perfectly matching her bedspread. Her clarinet stand sits proudly by the window where the sunlight pours in. This desk was Brenda's daughter's, I explain, brushing my hand over the smooth white surface. She outgrew it, but it's just right for homework and music practice. Next, I open the door to Milo's room. The walls are painted blue, the ceiling decorated with the glow-in-the-dark constellation stickers we applied last weekend. His telescope, once forgotten in the basement, now stands tall beside his window. There's a park right across the street, Milo tells his grandparents with a burst of excitement. With a big field where we can play soccer. For a moment, Mom's expression softens, but her voice quickly tightens again. This must be expensive. My children aren't bargaining chips, I reply evenly. They deserve respect just as much as Caleb does. Back in the living room, the twins eagerly take charge of the official tour, pride evident in their voices. Milo pulls Grandma toward the kitchen and swings open the pantry door. Look, we even have a whole shelf just for our snacks, he says. And we don't have to ask every single time we're hungry. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out his inhaler. And I don't need this anymore. Since we left the basement, Dr. Patterson says my lungs sound better. The basement wasn't that bad, Mom mutters automatically, but falters when Milo's eyes harden. Remember when I couldn't stop coughing at night? He asks quietly. You said I was faking it for attention. Mom looks away, bouncing Caleb on her hip. Then Tessa steps forward, holding her clarinet case. We can play music whenever we want here, she says proudly. With steady hands, she assembles her instrument and lets a clear, flowing melody fill the room. Dad watches silently, his face unreadable. Sophia lingers awkwardly by the door, phone in hand like she's ready to leave. Then suddenly she blurts out, "Who's watching Caleb next Tuesday when you have your interview?" The music stops. Tessa lowers her clarinet slowly, her eyes flicking between us, realization dawning. Her aunt hadn't been concerned about me at all. She'd been planning on my free childcare. "I'm sure you'll figure something out," I reply calmly. "You're resourceful." The atmosphere shifts. Dad helps Mom gather Caleb's diaper bag instead of leaving it to Sophia. Mom reminds Sophia about the babysitting service she'd mentioned earlier. At the door, Dad clears his throat. "Amelia, could I speak with you privately before we go?" I glance at the twins who are watching carefully, then nod. "Give us a minute." On the small balcony I stand with him, the glass door closed behind us. Inside I can see Milo showing Grandma the view from our third-floor window. Not extraordinary, but trees and sky instead of concrete walls and pipes. Whatever Dad says now, it won't erase this place. The fresh painted walls, the laughter of my children finally free in rooms filled with light. This battle isn't the end. Family wars never resolve in one strike. But for the first time in years, I'm the one drawing the lines. 6 months later, I sit at a loan officer's desk, mortgage papers spread before me. 6 months ago, I would have hesitated, called my parents for reassurance. Now my pen glides across the page. "Congratulations, Ms. Dalton," the officer says, sliding the keys across the desk. I close my fingers around them, remembering the damp basement steps where my nursing bag once slipped. The contrast nearly steals my breath, from mildew-stained walls to a modest 3-bedroom filled with light. My phone buzzes. A text from Brenda. "Still on for housewarming Saturday?" I grin and text back. "Absolutely." At work, colleagues now approach me for schedule guidance. Just last week, Dr. Patel asked for my input on a tough case. 6 months ago I would have stayed invisible. That night at home, Tessa practices her clarinet in the kitchen while Milo builds a volcano for science class at the dining table. Neither jumps or apologizes when I walk in. Instead, Tessa finishes her piece, and Milo launches into an animated explanation of his project. Principal Hayes asked me to join advanced band, Tessa beams. And Jason invited me to his birthday party. My science project might win first place, Milo adds proudly. Can we paint my room blue this weekend? Real blue, not that weird gray Grandma said was good enough. My phone rings. Mom's number flashes. I let it buzz 3 times before answering, deliberately. We'd like you and the twins to come for Sunday dinner, she says, her tone softer than I've ever heard. Your father grilled steaks. Just us. I ask pointedly. Sophia moved back to her condo last month, Mom replies. Caleb's nursery is empty now. I exhale. We'd love to come, but we'll need to leave by 7. Tessa has band practice Monday morning. The old Amelia would have agreed to anything. The new one sets boundaries. That's fine, Mom says quickly. We understand. That weekend my little house fills with warmth. Brenda brings a fern. For new beginnings. 2 colleagues arrive with a welcome mat and homemade lasagna. My charge nurse shows up with wine. As we raise glasses in a toast, tears sting my eyes, but they're different tears than before. The twins' rooms, Milo's painted a bold blue, Tessa's lavender, are full of laughter and paint speckles as they hang posters. I started a college fund, I tell them, and enrolled in online BSN classes. You'll be the best nurse practitioner ever, Tessa declares. A knock interrupts. I open the door to find Dad standing with a toolbox. Thought you might need help mounting bookshelves, he says, stepping inside. His eyes sweep the room, the colors, the life, the joy. I'm proud of you, Amelia. The words hang between us, delicate and new. As I take in his hesitant olive branch, I wonder, should I rebuild these fractured bonds, or simply protect the new family I've forged from kindness and choice?